We have Amazon's Morphtronics, and actually all sorts of cool, interesting little things for you guys today. Like the 30% of you guys have not smashed Living Crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can climb up the 100K ladder. I went down the creative ladder this week for Twitter. Just kind of taking a look at some of these ideas that we could see possibly find their way out of the woodwork here for some of these decks. So the first list here is Amazoness. So we're playing one copy of the Golden Whip Masters. Remember, this deck is kind of interesting, like in the regard of it actually got pendulum scales that are recurable, which I guess being able to do a pendulum summon and then, you know, climb into the OTK machine here to basically, do 4,800 twice to your opponent to close the game is actually like our best game plan. So we have one Golden Whip Master, triple copies of the Warrior Chief, two copies of Asa. Gotta love the Earth synergy for this deck. We have triple copies of Kaiza the Hidden Star. So yes, we are going to be able to do some other Warrior subclass shenanigans as well for this. We have one copy of Kaiki the Unity Star, and then we have one of the higher scale pendulums, triple copies of the Amazoness Princess. We have triple copies of Astral Blossom, Enjoy Spring, triple copies of Amazoness Shaman, triple copies of Amazoness Little Baby Tiger. We have one Harpy's Feather Duster, two Polymerization, one Rhoda, one Monster Reborn, two Called by the Grave, triple copies of Amazoness Call, which is just our free searcher. We have one copy of Crossout Designator, two copies of the Amazoness Secret Technique, one Amazoness Village, and triple copies of Imperm. Down here in the extract, we have one Cross Sheep, one Mrs. Radiant, one is sold, two copies of the Amazoness Pet Tiger, two copies of Empress, two copies of the Big King Liger, one Guardian Chimera, two copies of Ida 10, the Conquering Star, two copies of Kairsrin, and one copy of Shura, the Combat Star here, wrapping up our Amazoness list. And I do like the fact you get a little bit of synergy back here with the Combat Star because it's generic support, alright, just being a level 5 or higher monster to be able to fusion into this. Kind of interesting, actually. I will give them that. Next up here is Earthbox OCG edition here. Now, this was actually from an instructor duel, and this caught my attention because I was like, gadgets? Like, what are we doing here? Which means we are doing the Venizar fairy shenanigans. Basically, it's like free Earth extender things for this deck, which is actually kind of cool, actually. So we have two copies of Machina Citadel here. We have one Bullet Train Express, two copies of Metal Cruncher, two Regulix. We have one copy of the Thorion's Empress Arazia. We have one Fortress with one copy of the Kunazan. We have one Stampede with one gear frame, two copies of green, two copies of red, and two copies of yellow. We have two copies of the Fairy of the Forest and Awakening, triple copies of Fairies of the Hill and Blooms, and then we have one copy of the Little Bear. Actually, we have two bears. Then we have one Little Rabbit. And then we have one Inishi, two copies of Max C, one copy of Shinkuro, two copies of the new level 1. We have one Argeo system with one Foolish Bro, one Machina redeployment, two limited removals for OTK Factor, two copies of Called by the Grave, two copies of the Fairy. All monsters, or all Earth monsters, become treated as fairies for the Venazar archetype. And once per turn of a Venazar fairy monster in your hand would discard itself and one other card activated its effect, you can make it only discard itself. It's actually really good. We have two copies of the Thorion's Ring Sorcerer, then we have two Machina Overdrive with one copy of Gozen Match here. Then we have one Mrs. Radiant, one double Anger Knuckle, one Soldier of Chaos with one Utopic Future, one Utopic Future Draco, one copy of Gaga 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 Magician, two Girgagan X's, one Hope Harbinger with one Gustav Max, one Juggernaut Labby, one Sky Thunder, one Beret, one Burrito, and one copy of Breezy Boo here, wrapping up this list. I do like the one-ups here across the board. This is basically just free synchro climbing, so you can get places. It's actually kind of interesting, all things considered here. Next up here is Kobayashi Dragon Maid Express. First of all, it's been a little while since I have seen play with the interesting concept of playing it with Dragon Maids, because it doesn't technically interfere with your ability to do fusion summons. But with that being said, it is an interesting concept. It's something we don't really see all that much. Also, shout out here to Supreme King Soul, just being able to, you know, plop out a Zark, and then if they do a spell card, you're like, oh yeah, by the way, here come all my free dragons. Just kind of stare at your opponent during their turn. It's actually an interesting concept. So we have one copy of Lepore, one copy of Tinkek, one copy of New Darl. It's actually interesting to play that. We have one Ernest. We have one copy of Ye Old Albus Neely's Field. Thank you, Fallen of Albus. Triple copies of Chamber. We have one Kitchen with 2 Parlor. One copy of Laundry. I swear the OCG just loves this card as a meme. We have one Nurse. Triple copies of Maxi. One copy of Changeover. Triple Branded Fusion. 2 copies of Hospitality, 2 Prosperity, triple book, that's interesting, 2 Called By, 1 Droplet with the 1 Crossout. Then we have 2 Imperm, 2 Torrential, 2 good Dragon Maid card. And then we have triple of the Supreme King Soul. Extra deck here we have 1 Heretic Seal with 1 Underworld Goddess, 1 Crystal Wing with 1 Titaniclad, 2 copies of Lubellion with 1 copy of the really, you gotta play the specific ones. Well, I mean, you can play any of the ones that have Odd Eyes in the name. But yeah, we have 2 Mirror Jade, 2 Chamber, 1 Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon, then we have 2 Dragon Maid Show, and 1 Venom. And then, or 1 Zark. So the gear is 1 Nibiru, 1 Fallen of Albaz, 1 Crystal Clear, 2 copies of Return, 2 Lightning Storm, 1 Harpy's Featherduster, 1 Trade-In, 1 Dark Roller, 1 Droplet, 1 Fighting Dragon Spirit. Target a dragon monster you control with special summon this turn for each monster your opponent controls. That special monster gains 1 additional attack during each battle phase of this turn. That's a big OTK. And then we have 2 Nightmare and 1 more Downtime. So that's Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Next up is Morphtronics Express. Oh boy. This is actually kind of cool getting a chance to see what this deck does. Shout out to O-Lion here, and the rest of the Auroradon Hulk shenanigans that the OCG gets to do. So we have triple copies of My Scanner, triple copies of Remote, triple copies of the Gadget Gamer here. This card is really good, man. Getting to search for the level 1, and then it can tribute itself off to special summon a Morphtronic from your hand or deck. This card is really good. We have 1 copy of the Sunrise Signaler Gizmek, 2 copies of O-Line with 1 Jet Synchron, triple copies of Smartphone, triple copies of Cellphone, triple copies of My Telephone. And then we have 1 1-for-1, 1 copy of Harpy's Featherduster, triple copies of Junk Box. I'm glad to see that they're still playing this. We have triple copies of Machine Duplication. Then we have 1 Pot of Avarice, 1 Monster Reborn. We have 3 Convert Units. We have 1 Twin Twister, 1 Broken Bamboo Sword, 1 DDR, 1 copy of the Metal Silver Armor, 1 Bamboo Sword, 1 copy of the Cursed Bamboo Sword, and triple copies of the Morphtronic Repair Unit. Down here in the extra deck, this is where you're going to have, like, basically Auroradon Synchro shenanigans. I can't, like, really justify this all that much, because, like, this is banned here, but alright. We have 1 Almirage, 1 Link Karibo, 1 Hulk, 1 Auroradon, 1 Formula Synchron with 2 copies of Leo Luna, 1 Naturally Beast, 1 Hyper Librarian, 1 Basic Power Tool, 1 copy of Crystal Wing, 1 Borrowed Savage with 1 BLs. And then we have 1 copy of Braver Power Tool, 1 Baron de Fleur, and 1 copy of Cosmic Blazar Dragon here. Wrapping up this list. The fact that we can actually step into this and have this being a threatening force on the field, I think is actually kind of amazing. I think this goes to show, like, the crazy little power scaling that you get with Morphtronics here that just punish the opponent. It's absolutely amazing. And last but not least here, we have Sue Ships. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this has been probably one of the more requested decks because everybody's like, you got a Sue Ship list, Robbie? You got a Sue Ship list? I mean, these are kind of hard to find in between. At least one that looks like it's workable. So we have triple copies of the Gunkin Sue Ship. We have triple copies of Uni, triple copies of Ikaru. Then we have triple copies of the Shiraro. And then we have what? Triple copies of the Akashari. Someday we will get this card. Soon. Be patient. We have triple copies of Ash Blossom, 2 copies of Maxi. We have triple copies of Unexpected Die, triple copies of Painful Decision. We have 1 copy of Harpy's Featherduster, 1 Terraforming with 1 Monster Reborn, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 2 copies of Piercing the Darkness. If a normal or special summon non-token normal monster, alright, you can draw a card. That's going to be very important for this. We have triple copies of the Seaside Supper Spot, and then we have triple copies of the Gunkin Sue Ship Daily Special. Actually, here we have 1 Utopic Future with 1 Utopic Future Draco, 1 Dagos Drumroll, 1 Gaga Magician, 1 Baguski, 2 copies of the Carrier, 2 copies of the Dreadnought Carrier with 1 Dreadnought Dreadnoid, 2 copies of the Super Dreadnought with 1 Gostov, 1 Juggernaut Libby, and 1 copy of Zeus. Wrapping up, well, this chunk of interesting OCG decks for you guys today. And I will say, I think that the OCG has a lot more cool ideas continuing down the pipeline here. I'm personally really looking forward to seeing what more we will see in the future here from the OCG now that the duelist pack is out. What do you guys think? Please, if you comment about, tell me what you're saying. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.